supported, not because I was gonna just sit here and go along with pushing the community out. It was because I was going to take hard, difficult positions. And that's what I'm trying to do in the most respectful way possible. It is difficult because of the discussions you see on the news of Sandpoint. But at the same time, what I'm doing is necessary to change the direction of Bonner County, to recognize that we as residents of Bonner County, this is our meeting, this is our business, this is our tax money. I owe you the explanation of how I spent my time. I owe you why you paid me so much money to do my job. I owe you that I'm gonna look at every line item. I owe you, whether you like my answer or not, to be respectful in the transmission of that answer. That's, when I looked at the idea of removing District 2 report, it isn't what I'm saying. It's that what I'm saying is being heard and listened to and received, and the number of people are starting to change their expectations of the board and what the board presents to you. And when you change that expectation to say, I actually want to know what you did and not include the weather. How did you spend your week? What are you doing? That's what's bothering this board. Because if you recall, a couple weeks ago, Bradshaw made a comment that said, I don't know why we do commissioner checks. We never did that before. And I said, before I make my motion, I can amend it to remove yours if you don't want to do it. In my mind, it was, I'm the one who wanted the chat or the report. So that didn't work, and the response was, we say it how we want to say it, whatever. But now we want to remove it, saying it's not business. Well, I will point out to everybody, everything about my district report is the business of Bonner County. Everything about their report is not about the business of Bonner County. So we don't need to remove my report, just don't give your report. Just don't waste the time in your section. The reason that's not the answer is because that's not what the problem is. The problem is, if Asia says, these are the chats lined up, these are the communications I had, this is what I'm working on, and you tell me, look outside, it's still snowing, you're gonna start to say, I'm paying you 96, I've got an app on my phone that tells me the weather, tell me something else. That's why we need to remove the District 2 report. That's something that the community shouldn't accept. Dan Rose.
Yeah, I just kind of like to speak to the hypocrisy of 200B. If we, how do we say, become intolerant.
Do you have 200B in front of you to read for those that don't remember it?
I do have 200B here, but the purpose of 200B is left out of this this memorandum part. That's the very beginning of 200B, and that says for greater participation. And so that's it's a little bit more specific than what's here.
No, so what
Do you want me to read it?
you can if you want, yeah.
Okay,
if you
so
got it.
public comment, now the purpose, the part right above this is not on the paper, but it says for greater participation and awareness from citizens. So it says participation, cut and dry. And we've talked in, Prosecutor Marshall has given a legal opinion on this issue, and he's commented at the Central Committee as well, supporting all of this stuff. But 200 says, public comment segment, the purpose of the public comment segment of the Board of County Commissioners business meetings is to enable citizens with issues or concerns which they wish to bring to the board's attention and afford an opportunity for consideration on a future agenda for possible board action. That's very specific. It's not, I don't like the color of your tie. I don't like that you just give out the weather stuff. It says that you're asking for something for them to decide on. And this was a very important point. Someone from the Fair Board came here several meetings ago, months ago, and said, I've had 3 conversations with you in the office, and nothing got done. Well, this is the place where you get to make it public that nothing has gotten done. And now you're putting it on them. And that is, how do we say, a constitutional right of instructing a representative, which I believe Mr. Marshall agrees with. So when they say you're intolerant, you said something you weren't supposed to, and we're throwing you out. And if you don't leave, we're gonna arrest you. They're saying we're gonna arrest you for what's in public comment about being derogatory in nature. So we, the citizen, are subject to arrest because of their subjective opinion of what's derogatory. Now, why aren't we arresting them for violating and taking public comment away, which is in the very same ordinance? So that's the hypocrisy of the two positions with regard to 200B. We get a penalty that's pretty severe. They can do whatever they want.
Well, and I'll say, I don't agree with the idea of sergeant at arms as a county employee because of immunity. There's a problem for me with that. And I brought that up when this came up because of protection of the individual, protection of the county, protection of the residents. That was not received well. I do know that with respect to the idea of sergeant at arms, it isn't as stated where you say something wrong, I can kick you out. That's not how it's supposed to go. And that's where you have to start checking the idea of, I am the supreme being on the board that can just say that. No, because we can't afford to be sued. So for everybody online that's talking about being sued, we can't afford to kick people out of this meeting because you're towing the line of, in this very meeting, you have disrespect from our table to you, and then we say, arrest you for saying something we don't like. But that's not gonna work. That there's nowhere that is going to work.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna have public
No,
but this is all public comment, right?
Lewis better come back at 11 a.m.
I'm not a health food, I don't know that. I'm not trying. But I know my
I would
problem is
like to say something that I want
That's
to
why
be
it's
recorded, and I'm not sure if I'm
Mine's
gonna
out.
ever remember to. Maybe next week we'll have public comment unless he gavels or, shuts the meeting down. So I'd like to get something, I'd like to read my public comment if that would be possible right now.
Sure.
It's relative to what
See, I
I'm
won't do it on
saying.
my.
I don't know why you're coming to a microphone that's not
I
on.
know.
Give them yours.
Do you wanna amplify your voice?
Did I get a chance to watch it?
I just
but
didn't wanna
watched-
sound like a
I
yeller.
watched it with them.
Said it loud enough that they can hear
I
you.
watched the whole thing. Did you get yours?
There was a surprising and quite emotionally fraught New Year's prediction made in the local paper. It predicted that Commissioner Williams would resign this year. I agree with that part of the prediction which stated that, quote, "There is no conceivable way the dysfunction and ire on display at every weekly meeting will be tolerated for another year without something or someone breaking."
You know, like that we're talking, but you know,
That
this
was
is
a
the
prediction.
reason.
Here are my predictions.
I'm not gonna follow anybody's.
No local paper will report that the stage for chaos was set during the first meeting last year, when the obvious and blatant bullying of Commissioner Williams began, and when the now weekly stratagems to shut out the public from their right to question their elected representatives was revealed. It wasn't tolerated then, and it will never be tolerated. No paper will report that Commissioner Williams has given the public repeated opportunities for public officials and community leaders to share information and to question her in the form of commissioner chats and town halls. If this was a game, the score for Commissioner Williams would be about 50-0 compared to the other two, who haven't done these public engagements at all. They haven't given the public the right to actually engage them. And then when it comes to this meeting, they shut us down. No paper reports that. No, it's not newsworthy that the public was given these opportunities to question her outside these business meetings, or that there has been no chaos in those events. Perhaps these papers will prefer a candidate and potential commissioner that quickly bows down and, quote, finds her place, unquote.
Side.
These are certainly, there are certainly segments of the population who seem to prefer a woman like that. No paper will report that Commissioners Omot and Bradshaw have been rebuked twice by their own party central committee. And this is They're the first in ideal history and likely the first in the nation. Nor will they report that Commissioner Bradshaw didn't even show, and that Commissioner Omont's defense at the Central Committee was non-responsive and largely incoherent. No paper seems interested in knowing why the majority of the Bonner County Republican
Amy put her hand down.
BCRCC members don't attend these meetings, or why they don't push back publicly, individually, and forcefully against the obvious abuse of power. No paper seems interested in knowing whether or not the repeated abuse of recesses is matched in any other place besides some third world authoritarian regime. No paper seems interested in expounding at length on the merits of Commissioner Williams taking the opportunity to expound on her positions. That is a feature, not a bug. Some people complain that, she filibusters. I think that's asinine. I think that every commissioner should be obligated to tell us what they think, and if they're not going to do it in a business meeting, they need to do it in a town hall or in a commissioner chat. Far from resigning, far from imagining Commissioner Williams as a source of the chaos, she should be awarded a profile in courage. And lastly, and it's too bad that Commissioner Omont isn't here to hear this, but he will hear this question if he runs for office and he has public forums. Since an insistence on respect is being demanded, perhaps he will pledge to refrain this year from calling constituents foul names, like he did me, in front of numerous witnesses, and after one of the many meetings he halted by calling a recess. Perhaps he would like to give me a public apology for calling me an effing piece of shit. I'll wait for that apology.
Thank you, Asia.
Yeah, I've been waiting for one too, and it happened.
Where am I at in commissioner reports? So ideas on who you guys want to see on commissioner. Army Corps of Engineer is a big topic. You're pointing at me.
Well, you reminded me. You actually mentioned this. I think a commissioner chat on the self-insurance, so we can understand that better, would be helpful.
Self-insured commissioner chat.
Oh, I can do that.
Look, he agreed too fast, then he had buyer's remorse. So here's the disclaimer that I'll give on it. On the concept of self-insured, not specific to our policy so that we don't have a risk. That would, how it works. Because it is not that we don't have insurance. It's not that he doesn't have like $1 million in a bucket and we're just paying it into, that's not how it works.
Right, but
So-
that's how it sounds, right?
So and I know that, I think that confusion is throughout our community on what does self-insurance mean? So high level insurance.
Can make conditional,
Sure.
or just sweets and coffee?
Diane Willie will bake your favorite confection because she communicates with love.
Oh, I forgot, I bow to you, when you say that, then I say, yes, sir, I would do that.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, I will do that.
So, self-insured, we can do that for sure. Anybody else have an idea? I know natural resources, I have asked, I haven't gotten a response on the next meeting. I did ask if they wanted to do a commissioner chat. I haven't got an answer on a date for commissioner chat for natural resources, but that's on the list of people that have asked for chats. Anybody else have another idea of a chat?
I work with
Is there
Nora.
anything on, like, the mental health issues? Did we already discuss that?
I don't think we have a solution for our mental health issues, or
That's incurable.
Ours
as a county, or we're gonna drill that down for real specific. Do you need a helpline, or?
No.
You mean what's the state of behavioral health in Bonner County?
Yes.
Okay, all right,
You know, there are some big changes in mental health right now,
there are.
and one to include Medicare being something,
Okay.
That would be a really good project.
Okay.
There's a lot of, I don't wanna say in our community specifically, but, I work with the public a lot, and I see a lot of people, there's a lot of mental issues out there. You see a lot of people talking to people that aren't there, there's people that are depressed. I don't know about the suicide rate in our area, but I think it would be kind of interesting to see what the statistics are and what we can do to progress that, to help that situation.
Okay, so I will, March. I know our board finishes another meeting in February, so I'll ask about March. I think another topic that I have lined up, Idaho Department of Lands is going to come. I believe they're the second week in February, but also, looking to more of what are our resources within our community is a focus for me in 2024. I don't know if you guys watch the news, but things don't look good nationwide. And we have a high dependency on federal funding in Bonner County. And that's there so long as it's there, and when it's gone, it's gone. And knowing our own resources is huge. I know I complained a lot this year about being a gem state gleaner and running out of people that will accept our donations, to where what happens is then we can't, it's kind of like a trickle down tax break that you then end up not being able to pass on if I can't give fresh food to someone. By the way, we have potatoes, like 1,200 pounds, if there's a church or organization that needs potatoes. It's important for us to know our own resources, especially like in our community of Blanchard, which all events in our Blanchard Community Center are accepting donations for our community center. By the way, we need to put a bucket at Conoco Station for that. We need repairs. But we need to know what we have, and recognizing our elder population within, like we have to go micro, because for example, Mr. C was our Commissioner Chatbet, and he loved serving our community. And he had a fall and he's not doing well. And all he can remember is he can't wait to come back and participate with that. But we need to know who those people are in our community, because he doesn't have family in the area. And I work with the Clark Fork area, so I knew that. But as communities, we can drill it down to who are the people in your area that are on oxygen, that would need to help be moved in a disaster. We have snow in Blanchard. Where is I'm like, oh, is the stove going off today because it was flickering? Knowing who's in your community is important, and we cannot continue with the mindset that the government is there to help us. The other problem I have is the policies of Washington are sliding towards our border, and their problems are leaking into our state. We don't have the resources that that state has for the decisions that they make to do the social, whatever they call that over there, but it does come to our side. And so we need to have an understanding of where we are within our own communities, and that's down to what's the city that you live in, what's your community center. Like Sandpoint will hit their, I think it's 551st anniversary of being a senior center here. What services do they offer our people so that we can be able to point people towards resources, and then understanding what are the gaps in those resources, especially with mental health. We have a huge gap with mental health. We have moved towards telemedicine, and that doesn't really work well with mental health at all. And so how do we pull people into our community to want to be mental health providers? We have to work on that as a community, and that's where my idea of we can't keep saying we need to be receiving rules to tell us to do this. This is stuff we can do as community members. I go throughout our community centers throughout Bonner County, and the thing you will see is the population that is being served is the same population doing the serving. We have to figure out how to fix that. How do we get more of the adolescent population to come into the senior center to be the server for our senior center? Because it's a whole group of people trying to help each other, and that's not a bad thing. But you have to have a resource that can be regenerated, and we don't have that in Bonner County, but we are attracting the population that needs the services that we don't have. Dan Rose.
I'm no longer a board member for the hospital district, but before I left, they increased their funding, which comes out of your tax dollars. Every tax bill you get has a POHD line item. and they fund really 3 clinics, but they get rid of one altogether, and the other one they're only funding half of, so really they're only funding 1.5 clinics, with $1.4 million that they collect from tax money. We went from like 300,000, 350 to 500, 550 to 600,000 for mental health. And so, the clinic at BGH is completely funded by your tax dollars, and they have increased their stuff to include the highest level, mental health.
It's just that you need the practitioners to come.
Right, well, they said that they couldn't get, I don't know what the highest level is, but
Psychiatrist.
They couldn't get one here for that salary. 2 months later, they got one. So we do have it, I don't even think Kootenai has it, but we have it here, a psychiatrist, and that was part of the reason they raised the funding. But they raised the funding considerably, came from your tax dollars, and it's really the only thing they're funding. So we should, how do you say, they're gonna take our money, make them give us service for it.
Yep. Any other topic other than mental health? So I am the precinct committee person for Spirit Valley. We are having a caucus because we're not voting individually, because everybody who has so much trust in the media wants me to receive a ballot box. So I'm doing a caucus education session with Senator Hart and Scott Hill on February 17th at our Blanchard Community Center. The purpose is to educate people on what is a caucus, for one, how do we make our voice heard, and how do we never have to do a caucus again. Because you're not going to pick your presidential candidate by voting in that way. You're going to your precinct. I'm going to show you a couple of videos, design it with some red, white, and blue stuff, and then I'm going to turn the ballot box into Scott Hill. We're going to talk about how that came to be down in Boise. I'm sure you guys have heard about across the country, people have had comments of whether or not President Trump can be on somebody's ballot. That was a discussion in Idaho. And so this looks like to be an answer to that. It wasn't an official taking someone off a ballot. It is a caucus. I personally don't support the idea of caucus. I don't like the idea, but that was the best that we can get with the way the vote went. And so as people talk about precinct committeemen, it's not just them, it's the senators that are going down there to cast these votes, and how did we come up not knowing for sure that my vote counted for who we are going to cast our vote behind. It is a huge process, and we're getting the information, and I'm putting it out on Facebook to show the videos that they released to us. But too many people, we have a primary for May. But it's just not we're not doing a presidential primary. And so I don't want people to get confused and not do the caucus thinking that there is no primary, because that's the way it's being said, is there's no primary. There's no presidential primary. We need to vote in May across the board, literally and figuratively. And then on April 20th, I am redoing the Spirit Valley Town Hall. I'm reducing it to just Spirit Valley because of the election. If you're on our ballot in Spirit Valley, you are invited. Everyone's receiving the invitation. Most everybody in our district has, from the state level, our group has been very involved in, because I talk a lot, as has been commented, and we get our information to the public in real time. But what the focus is really going to be is I'm trying to see if we can shift our percentage. Southwest Bonner County has a huge influx of people that have come from states that do voter guides. And so when I did a poll of why our number was like 35%, mind you, we did a recall of school board and we got a better percentage than we got when we went back to vote again. That's not acceptable, and that's how we end up in unhappy, lengthy relationships. We need to vote. So I'm going to produce a voter guide, but I can only do that for Spirit Valley. That's a lot of work to do. And so I'm going to do the town hall just for Spirit Valley, but I am looking at an option to Zoom it, because I'm trying to intentionally discourage non-voters in Spirit Valley from occupying seats, only because We were in our foyer out into the parking lot, and our chief carpenter was very nice, but we cannot break the fire code this year. And it's intended to really go through the voter guide, and that's one where I want to bring that information back to Central Committee to say, if I did a town hall and a voter guide and I increase that percentage, we need to be doing this as Central Committee, every precinct, because that's how we get our voice heard and start getting that representation. But I can only do that if I can get pure numbers on using it as best I can with that. So it isn't intentionally to say I don't want people from the other precincts. It's because I'm using the slate card of, if you're running, you're gonna be represented. I've asked everybody to give me their little spiel on themselves. You're gonna be in the guide if you don't, so you might as well tell me what you'd like me to say about you.
Will the other commissioners be doing that in their areas?
I will allow you to ask that question of the person that can provide that answer. I can tell you what I am doing.
I know the answers.
Yes.
He'll tell you the weather.
Yeah.
I'm not, and I'm trying to focus on what I can positively impact, and it isn't everything. It is, in some ways, it's just going to be being an example of how I want to be represented when I am done with my sentence. So,
You're just the queen of chaos. That's.
I am.
Yes, you are.
Well, I'll take the high road and say I'm the queen of something. How's that? I don't think there's anything else other than that. Is Ann still in the hall? So there is a bill that is at the federal level regarding expanding broadband, and it has a lot of generic stuff in it. But one of the things that her mission is to educate our community on wireless versus wired, the health impacts, and what do you want your neighborhoods to look like. And so working with her as a commissioner through the Idaho Association of Counties to help bring that to other counties. Dalton Gardens is an example, and so is Dover, of actually putting it in there. How do you develop our area with cell phone towers, restrictions there? The goal is that we start looking at that. So from a commissioner's level, my input on her project was the way we would positively impact something like that is to look at the health and well-being of our residents and where we put those cell towers. I nudge on there's no way Bonner County is going to go completely wired, not possible. I only just got Starlink and it's only been a year. There's nobody coming to drop line all the way up to our property, and that's a lot of the rural areas. But the way we address it responsibly is putting the towers where they should be responsibly, and looking at the data that has come out about cell towers and their impacts on health, especially with people with disabilities, with pregnancies, with pacemakers. There's more evidence coming out. And so we want to be an informed community on that because we take so much funding, and some of that funding ties it to broadband expansion. And so we're trying to draw attention to that. So she's going to give a public comment on it, but we're going to bring forward an ordinance to have Bonner County review its ordinance regarding where we're installing those, because we don't have any rules on that. We're just kind of erecting them. And so other people are starting to make that move. I'm still moving forward on the COVID issue. I talked a little bit about kind of the data that's come out about the vaccinations and the push through your health districts. I'm on a different end of the focus group because there are people that got vaccinated and want to get vaccinated. Do your thing. There are people that don't want to get vaccinated. Do your thing. I'm in a different boat. I am a person with a medical condition that I cannot be vaccinated, but I'm getting excluded medically. That is a section of people because the maker of the vaccine also controls the very expensive drugs that I need. And so the requirement of being vaccinated is prohibitive in some medical patients as well. And so as a medical community, regardless of where you sit on the spectrum of COVID, doesn't really matter. Should it be a requirement that restricts you or prevents you is really what the focus is. It's not an anti-vax or pro-vax. We need to make informed decisions on this. There's been a lot of health information that has come out since vaccinations. You have a lot of doctors on this particular panel that are showing you their actual impacts. It doesn't matter why people choose or don't choose, in my opinion. We need to be okay with people making their own health decision. and I shouldn't have to pay so much for insurance for
Well, the
not
issue
being
is that
vaccinated.
if you, they're saying if you don't get vaccinated, that you don't get them trial meds, is that correct?
So in my particular case, I have a few autoimmune diseases, and so I get in programs. I've always been with research centers, but they made a move in COVID with legislation that said that the good of the many outweighs the good of the individual. So for my lifetime, I don't get flu shots or things like that because I have a problem, and medical doctors can sign off on that. When COVID happened and it was a requirement, I did not achieve that. And so, unfortunately and awkwardly, you imagine going to do respiratory tests, but you are declined to do the respiratory test because you won't take the vaccine. That had always been noted to be something that you shouldn't do for a condition, but it was a requirement based on that rule. There are people in that particular boat, so.
I ask you that because she has a newly diagnosed autoimmune disease and you give good information.
It is a struggle, because I don't know if you know drug formularies, but respiratory drugs, I complain every week, one inhaler, $680, because you can't get in a program. And so biologic drugs, when you have autoimmune disease and you won't comply, are unaffordable. Yeah, and so that's part of my angle on the COVID is we need to make reasonable decisions on it.
If I could just add in that, we have a friend that has a situation that's medical, and they haven't thought about it, but if you're gonna go get an operation and there's a chance that you need some blood transfusion, you need to give your blood ahead of time for that transfusion, so you're not taking someone else's bad blood.
Interested in it.
Completely glossed over by some
I
people when they're in
definitely agree
that
with that.
situation. But that's one.
And that is one that people are talking about more, and families donating to themselves, because I think the phrase that was used was pure blood, the difference of the blood of a vaccinated person and not vaccinated and what it does to the DNA. So there was a difference there, but that has brought a lot more attention. You've got, on our particular group, there was a provider who actually had a negative outcome. And if you look at the cases where you can file a claim against the vaccine, you have a 98% denial rate, which means you're not getting help from that. And some of what we did medically was the complete opposite of absolutely everything we're supposed to do. We green lighted a lot of things, but then the fine print was you can't do anything with respect to the maker of it. So I think that's it. Any other questions for me?
Thank you for
Thank you, AJ.
taking this time to engage with us, Commissioner.
Did Ann come back there? I gave your spiel, but public comment will come up later too. Were you guys online and you ran over here when you couldn't hear?
Yeah. 'cause I
Yes,
couldn't hear.
I couldn't hear, so that's why I came in. We couldn't come right away because of all the snow on our driveway,
Yeah.
so, I had to come in so I could hear it.
Okay.
Hopefully that can change in the future.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Is that an agendized item for the future?
It's actually the next item on the agenda.
Thank you.
Would you like to see this picture yet?
I will.
Amy leave? Oh, I see her.
Madam Clerk, are you ready?
Yes.
Good morning, it is 11 a.m. and we are returning out of a recess. And we are about to enter into another recess before entering into executive session that is scheduled for the BOCC. And we will wait upon technology as soon as we get that. So it's 11 a.m. It is now 11 a.m. and we are entering into a 5-minute recess.
You wasted your time.
I actually don't understand what just happened because you have to start with the next agenda item, which is number 8 under my name. So you're bypassing a lot of the agenda. Is that what you're doing?
On the bottom of the agenda, Commissioner, we have an 11 a.m. that is scheduled with an outside attorney, and I am loath to waste taxpayer funds.
Oh my
You just
So-
did
You
that.
specialize in wasting taxpayer funds.
You are a waste of taxpayer.
You are. Right.
He's starting the next one? All right.
So you're not going on to the agenda items, is that correct?
Let's say 5 minutes. Oh. Perfect.
Because I'm a little confused. Did we come back from a break to take a break?
Exactly,
Yes, we did.
because he doesn't wanna waste time or taxpayer money.
My item would have not taken 5 minutes
Yeah,
to
right.
go. It's like football, you're just running the clock down, I guess.
It's called wasting.
So they're waiting for the monitor to point. I think that's what they're doing, is waiting for the monitor.
That's your committee. Aren't you proud?
Commissioner Williams, could you add an agenda item that explains the definition of misfeasance in office, please?
I will ask legal to do that.
Okay.
Misfeasance and malfeasance.
Yes.
Non-feasance.
Are you just making that up now?
No,
or-
it's a specific term. It applies.
Way too much feces.
What happens to the items that are not?
We're gonna come back.
Come back to them.
We're gonna come back.
Outside attorneys, when you make an appointment with them, they charge you for that time, whether you're talking to them or not, and they get more than $49.95 an hour.
So they'll be added to next week's.
No, we're gonna come out of executive session, we will continue with the regular, with the right back to the regular items.
So what's the likelihood of you calling a recess and then us being here?
I don't know, what's the likelihood of someone being rude?
Pretty good.
Well,
by being rude,
Mr. Crank,
speaking the truth.
You are.
What's
We're
the
asking,
likelihood of being
if you go
offended
into
by the truth?
executive session, what is the expectation of when we can come back in?
when we receive the full, I have no idea what this attorney's gonna say, I don't know. I mean,
The expectation.
I have no, I'm sorry, I don't wanna scare you.
I'm just thankful you didn't call me an effing piece of SHIT like you did last year. Talking about respect, or lack of respect.
It's yours.
Mr. Chairman, are you gonna do just the 11 o'clock executive session and not the others as well? Put that, keep them in the same order when we come back?
I might do, I'm gonna talk with Prosecutor Marshall and see, because he has 2 of them, I would like to give Prosecutor Marshall, I'm gonna leave that in Prosecutor Marshall's court.
Got it, thank you.
But the other ones, yeah, I'm willing to
Thank you.
get back and go over the agenda. Christian, can I trouble you to see is Lewis right out there?
Yeah, they're both right here.
And Alicia, if she's ready.
Tell her I said hi.
Thank you.
No, I get them yet or not yet?
Well, I mean, they're gonna be invited, well, I just can't, I don't have X-ray vision. It's almost-
Are you gonna stick with it the whole time?
It is 11:05 and we are coming out of recess, and I would entertain a motion to go into executive session under Idaho Code 742061B personnel and 742061D records exempt.
Okay, I'll make a motion to go into
Oh.
executive session under Idaho Code 74-2061B personnel and D records exempt.
I second the motion.
There is a motion and a second to go into executive session under Idaho Code 74-2061B and D. It is seconded. Is there any discussion amongst the Board of Commissioners?
Nope.
Hearing none, roll call vote.
Commissioner Williams?
Yes.
Commissioner Albach?
Yes.
Commissioner Bradshaw?
Yes, ma'am.
So we have entered people. I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. Please take all of your belongings. Sergeant at Arms, if you would take a look to make sure that there are no phones or anything left so that we can return them. I would hate to think that there was a surreptitious recording of these proceedings.
Get the pizza pizza. You want to?